Okay, this is a super easy sewing pattern. We will roll through this super quickly, and I just absolutely adore how it turns out. So I hope that you do too. There are two pieces to this pattern. The first is the main bow and then the bow center. The bow piece is cut. Let me back this up a little bit. Is cut on the fold. So our piece actually ends up looking like this. And the reason why we did that is so the seam sits lower on the bow when it's completely assembled compared to if we did it the opposite direction. So that's why we have it looking more like a ribbon cut than going the other way. And then the bow center. You can use so many different fabrics with this. This is just a quilting cotton, but you can use, it looks beautiful in satins. You can use knit fabrics. I would recommend stabilizing those so they don't grow. And you can also attach them to pretty much anything. I'm not attaching it to anything today because I don't have my alligator clips. They didn't come in time. But alligator clips are great. Also, just hair ties. I've been seeing these bows for like hair tie bows everywhere recently, and so they're back, and I'm not mad about it. So besides the pattern pieces, you just need basic sewing tools, pins or clips, whichever you use, and scissors, a sewing machine, all that good stuff, plus that alligator clip or pin or whatever it is that you want it to attach to something. But that's it. Let's get going. All right, first up, we are going to be sewing the bow piece. So you're going to just fold it in half with right sides together. And we are going to be stitching up all of the raw edges except leaving like let's say a 3-ish inch opening on the long side, and kind of put it in the middle because when we assemble everything, it'll get hidden there the easiest probably. So go up and down, skip a section, around and down, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, we're all stitched up. I would recommend going in and trimming down your seam allowances. It'll just make for a cleaner, get that on camera, a cleaner turn when we're doing this. Yeah, just trim it down. Make sure you're not stitching through any of your stitches. Make sure you're not snipping through any of your stitches is what I meant to say. And just kind of clean it up a little bit so when we turn it, it's just a little nicer. And give that point a good cut. And there we go for that. So we're just going to need to turn this bad boy right side out. And it is exactly as it sounds. We're turning it right side out. Now, I would recommend using a turning tool for this. It doesn't have to be a fancy one. It could be pretty much anything that you've got lying around, chopsticks, whatnot. But the turning tool definitely helps get everything poked out nice and neat. So I just like to turn it by hand at first. And then I grab my, this is actually like an elastic feeding tool or a feeding tool, but it has this ball point on the end of it. And so it's nice because it doesn't stab through anything when I'm poking, because it's blunt and not just this mean, nasty, pokey thing. But just poke out your corners. Get everything nice and situated. And then we are going to run to our iron and press everything. And make sure when you do, you tuck in that opening for the seam allowances that we created. Okay, so it's nice and neatly pressed, and the opening is still in existence here. The one thing that we need to kind of make a decision on is how you want your bow to look. Do you want it to be top stitched all the way around, or do you just want to give it a blind stitch to close that opening. Either or works fine. It kind of just depends on your taste and your preferences. Trying to think of what I want to do for this one. I think for this, I'm going to give it a top stitch all the way around. And I just need to, when I go to make my middle piece, I need to make sure I remember to do it on that one as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just top stitch all the way around this. All right, your girl is looking cute with a top stitch. Okay, so the next part, usually when I've done bow patterns in the past, I've done it in two pieces. So you'll have like the bow piece and then we attach the tail piece. This one is all in one, so it's kind of a little bit different than the ones that I've done previously. But the assembly is super easy. So I think, you know, the less steps you have to do, sometimes the better. So to be able to create our bow, like the structure of the design, we just need to do a little bit of folding. And so we're going to fold one side down. And it doesn't matter if you want to fold this side down first or the opposite. It's complete preference on this in this situation. But we're going to fold it and then just kind of shimmy it. Shimmy is the most technical term I can come up with for right now. So you want each of these points to be even with the bow that gets folded. So it essentially gets folded into thirds, and even thirds, but there's no markings on here because you just kind of fudge it until it gets into place. So I'll show you again. We're just gonna fold one side over and then the other side, and then just kind of shimmy it into place and kind of keep making adjustments until the edge of the bow points are the same width and the same space as the folds here on these bows. And then just to make sure that they stay in place while we're stitching things together, just go ahead and add some pins or clips there to hold it in the spot so then it doesn't move on us while we're doing anything beyond that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get the rest of this bow piece prepped and ready for assembly. And in order to do that, I'm actually going to grab this is a water soluble pen. So I can put a marking on here and have my true center. So you can, let's see. Here is the center here. And where it crosses over on both points would be our center mark for that as well. And I'm just going to draw a line down the center with this marker so we can see what we're doing. Hopefully you can see that line. And then I'm going to grab a regular old needle and thread, and we are going to start creating like a gather. So you want to stick your needle in and just run it back and forth. And of course, I'm way off on my lines. I drew a line, but I can't see when I'm making videos. So we're just going to go back and forth on that line that we created. So we're going to go all the way up the center. Keep going. And then I've got a knot tied in mine, so it will stay. You're just going to pull and scrunch it until all your fabric gathers up in the middle here. And I'm going to wrap the strings around the middle a few times to just secure it. And I'm going to tie a knot in the back here. And secure my threads. So there is that. And then you can take your clips off the sides here and flip it over, and our little bow has been created. Isn't that so sweet and so easy? So the last thing we need to do is just add that middle part so we cover up these ugly threads that we just created, and we are so close to being done. All right, you just grab your bow center and we are going to fold it right sides together with the long edges meeting one another. And I'll add a clip if I can get it under control. And we are going to be sewing along that long edge right there. All right, we've got it stitched up and we just need to turn this puppy right side out. So I'm going to grab my easy point and turner tool because it's the fastest way to turn it. But if you have a safety pin or however you want to turn your middle piece, totally works for you. Whatever works for you works for me. So I like to typically put that seam like dead center in the back, and then I'm going to give this a good press, and then I'm going to top stitch along both sides so we match the top stitching that's on our bow. All right, we've got our top stitching done and we can grab our bow. And this would be the point that you're going to add, like if you have a scrunchie or a barrette or, you know, alligator clip or whatever it is, this is the stuff that we would be adding that to it. So the typical steps for what you're doing here is we are going to be taking the bow middle piece and placing it wrong side up, I guess right sides down. So we're putting it right side to right side with the bow. And then we're flipping the whole thing over and we're just gonna grab it. We're gonna pinch this together. And on your machine, you're going to stitch it as close as you can get to the bow without actually stitching the bow part. So we're gonna make this pretty dang tight, but we still have to be able to flip it around. So don't make it so tight that you can't move the fabric, but we're going to be stitching this right here. Okay, we've got it sewn up, and the middle piece is way bigger than what you need. I left it in case you wanted to assemble it differently or you were attaching it to something different, but you know, if you want it to be shorter before you go and do the stitching, that's totally fine. But for me, I'm just going to cut off the excess and then gently, I'll do it from this side, we're going to turn that bow piece, that middle point, right side out. Takes a little zhuzhing. That's why you don't want to do it too tight, but then that way we are hiding all of those ends. Here we go. Getting it right side out. And that way no raw edges are hanging out or doing anything. And you can kind of pinch this to make it a little more gathered looking. And we have an adorable little bow. Like I said, this can be attached to so many different things. You can put on headbands, you can put it on hair ties, you can put it on alligator clips, pins. Really, the sky's the limit. Whatever you want to attach a bow to, you can. But you've now got a cute little sailor bow. And I just think these things are so adorable. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be making some for the fall festival that we're going to be a vendor at, because I think these would be really cute and they would sell really well. So if you're looking for ideas for that, you know, you can borrow that from me. Otherwise, we are complete, and I think these are really sweet, and I hope you enjoyed making it, and I can't wait to see the ones that you complete and hear all about it. And thank you again so much for joining us for the sewing retreat.